well, today we got to play Museum Pictura.
Pictura.
Something. All right. So I was actually really excited to play this because I got to play the previous museum and absolutely fell in love with it. So I was super excited to get this out and be able to play it. So it came in what?
It came in Sunday. We played it Sunday.
It's, amazing when I want to play a game, how fast we get it to the table.
Mm-hmm. And when I want something, it's like, not tonight, not tonight. Now, Ark Nova was the exception. We did get that one quick.
You got me all excited about it. You just got to get me excited. All right. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are amazing, and that is what we do here.
And it gets her excited.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's, Randy, tell us more about Museum.
Museum Pictura is a 2021 release. In the U.S., it just hit the stores retailed this Sunday for us. It has a Board Game Geek rating of 7.7 and a Board Game Geek rank of 5680. It's a 2 to 4 player game. Average length of game is 60 minutes. I think we were a little bit over that. Age 14 and up. It probably doesn't have to be. I mean, I
wouldn't go much younger, though. Not really.
No, I mean, it's got a not mature, but it's got art that is kind of mature looking. I don't know if you'd interest people younger is the question. Designed by Eric Dubus and Olivier Melisson. Art by Joël Drans, Loic Musi, and Amber Scharf. Published by Holy Grail Games. The MSRP on it is $59.99. We got it. Card House has it for $43.99 where we got it. So you can get it roughly in the $43, $45 range if you look online.
Okay, awesome. All right, so now let's talk about quality of pieces. So I don't feel like the quality is as good in this one as the previous one.
It's purely not. I mean, the cards, we were gushing about the cards in the other one, how they had a nice linen finish and they were so great. These have no linen finish whatsoever. So they've downgraded on the card quality.
I don't know why they would do that. It's just so sad.
The player boards are about the same, except they only have one side now. Previously, they were two-sided where you had differences between the two sides. These are all one-sided. There's no custom player abilities or anything like that in this game, at least with the base game. Now, there were 2 expansions that released with it. We have not played the expansions yet.
Oh.
So I don't know what they had, but there were a ton of expansions for Museum as well. So we haven't played with those yet either. So.
And why not?
We just haven't gotten it back to the table.
Now that it's on my list, I shall endeavor to complete this.
So, I was a little disappointed with the quality of this game compared to what it was. This one does not feel as prestigious. We kind of talked about on the last one how it was the quality was kind of masked by the theme, making it look more regal.
They didn't make that happen
this one doesn't feel as regal. Now, the paintings, they're nice, but they're actual paintings by the actual artists, but they're not. There's nothing that's outstanding about the quality on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one. I mean, there's not a lot to say here. All right, so giving it a score, though.
Well, you do get 2 physical boards. You get the central board, and then you get the board for kind of the during game bonus cards.
Well, and then that one, too.
Oh, yeah, 3, I guess, to this little one as well. So given that, I'll probably get a 5.5.
Okay. I'll agree with that one. I guess 5.5. All right, so now let's talk about theme. So the theme is a little bit different in the fact that it's strictly painting and not just other museum.
It's an art museum now instead of a general museum.
Correct.
It's a little more believable because you're not cramming the Coliseum or the.
Hey, listen, I was fine. I was fine doing that. Okay, I don't know why.
I feel like it's missing something because it doesn't have those improbable situations.
I mean, so in some realistics, it feels like a 1920s art museum versus the last one.
It is. That's what it said, is the 1920s.
Well, so there it succeeded. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
But the artwork isn't as luxurious as it was in the previous game.
Yeah. It definitely doesn't capture the same feel and grandeur as the other game. Even though the cards do look very similar in style.
There's something about it that just doesn't.
It just doesn't feel as strong of a theme because of it.
You're right, correct. All right, so what would you score it then?
I will probably still give it a 7. It's not that significant of a downgrade, I don't think. The maps are pretty much the same for the player boards. The as far as the cosmetics of the look of the main board, it does look like a 1920s board, and you've got the style of this auxiliary boards that kind of looks Guggenheimish. So it doesn't bother me as that much about the theme. You're still building a museum. It's just a different kind. And so I think a 7 is about where I'm at.
I'm okay with that. The more that we play these 1920s things, I'm realizing I'm not liking that particular style as much, which is really crazy because I like the gangsters and the kind of feel of the 1920s, but the art just realizing it's maybe not my cup of tea. So I agree with you though on a 7 on a theme. I think that's where this thing should be. Like I said, it's really a shame that the theme didn't kind of overtake some of those quality concerns. All right, so now let's then talk about the rule book. How was reading the rule book?
The rule book's pretty straightforward. It's 16 pages, and
that's not bad.
It's really large print, so
for us, the old eyes.
Us old people, it was nice to not have to squint. Mm-hmm. It's sectioned nicely. It's pretty easy to read through, and I do like the 1920s style of the logos on there, or the headers in there. The section, it's got like call outs for the different key things, which I think is nice.
Yeah.
And the cheat sheet cards are very good.
Yeah, those were extremely helpful.
They walk you through all the turn steps, the scoring, everything is right there.
I like it.
Yeah. Given that, I'm going to give it a 9.
Yeah, I agree with that. The cheat cards were absolutely fantastic. I didn't listen to a word he said and still was able to play the game just fine with those cheat cards. Love you, baby. Mm-hmm. All right. All right, now let's talk about gameplay. The first thing you do is to set up, you gain
5 painting
cards. And then you end up taking 3 of these
trend cards.
And you'll end up only choosing 1, and you'll keep that hidden throughout the game. Now, what it is any of your time that your card at the end of the game matches any of these items, you will be getting those bonuses. So, for an example, if I get a 20 and a blue, I will be getting 4 victory points. Yeah. That is different than what is on the other when you do trading, and we'll talk about that.
Well, the numbers have a different meaning in this. Numbers in the original museum were kind of the strength of the
yes,
item.
That's not the case here.
In this, it just represents an artist. So all the number 4s are Durer, and all the 26s are Renoir.
Yeah. All right. So you have your 5 cards. So if it was my turn, for an example, I would draw 2 cards from the deck. And then I have to trade with the museum on the board, okay? So I'll end up doing that. Now, the one thing I do want to consider while I'm trading is that depending on where I put it and what I take, I could gain or lose victory points based on that. So for an example, this particular one, it wants to have a 12, a church, or a purple back to it. So depending on what I put and what I place. Now, I'm going to end up putting a purple down.
What you call the church, that's supposed to represent a style of art.
Right.
And the color represents the time period.
Right. All right. So I've got a purple here that I have. I don't have... Oh, no, I do have a church. I want to do that. All right. So I've got a church here. So this purple here... Oh, well, that would be net neutraling out. So I could end up trading this. Now, it also has a church. So I'd be losing 2 victory points because I'm picking it up. But then I'm gaining 2 because I'm placing a church as well on there. Okay, so that nets me nothing. But that's not always the case. Sometimes I may end up instead picking up this, which is worth 3 points, and I only put down 2, so I'd only gain 1. So just kind of keeping that in mind when you trade. Now,
if you're the active player, you have to trade.
Correct.
But then everyone else at the table, going from left to round, gets the option to trade.
Yeah, so if the active player maybe puts something in that's good, then that gives the other opportunity for the other people to gain it. All right. So once that occurs, then I can actually play my game or play my turn, and I have 3 different actions. One first is to expand my museum. And this one, it's a little bit different than the original museum. The museum is based on the strength. That's how many cards you had to discard, or the strength of the cards you had to discard. That is not the case here. It is 1 for 1. So if I spin a card, I can place a card into my thing. And I can keep doing that if that is the action I chose. One of the other actions, instead of expanding, is to pick up from your discard pile. So if I had here, I could just pick these up, and that would conclude my turn.
Well, you have, if you do that, you get one of the favor token cards.
Yes.
And you also get the option to wipe the board.
Right, which we never actually ended up doing.
I think you did once.
I did it with a card. All right, so the other option is then to trigger a collection. So once you trigger a collection during this phase, you're not going to be able to trigger the same collection again. So if I triggered apples, then I won't be able to trigger apples the rest of the game. So just kind of keeping that in mind as you trigger them. And when you trigger them, you'll gain the victory points based on the victory point scorecard, depending on the number you have, with a minimum of 4, a maximum of 20. But then as well as that, you also get, so you pick up the token that you did. So in my case, I did the first one was in apples. Because I was the first one, I got 3 extra victory points. But the second one doesn't necessarily have it. There was only 2 tokens in a 3-player game, so not everyone can do the same ones necessarily, depending on the time that they do it.
The famous art style of apples is actually Impressionism, but just so that people know.
The icon is an apple.
I know. We referred to them that way. It's for use apples and such during the gameplay.
Right. So anyway, so then I trigger it. I count how many apples I have on my board, which is 7. I trigger the amount of victory points. I gain those victory points. But then I get to place this token somewhere on my board to gain an instant benefit or maybe an end-game bonus. So in this particular case, I actually put the draw 3 favorite cards. You may maximize your hand to the favor by 2. Okay, so that's just something kind of keep in mind that you can, if you gain your collections early, you get those abilities from then on out. But at the same time, you're triggering something a little early. So maybe if you don't want a lot of something. I will say that was my favorite change of all the changes from the original to this version was that. I did like that, actually. That was the one thing that that's the change that I liked. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, so then the third action, like I said, okay, that was pick up. Okay, so we covered all the actions that you can take. Now there are 2 free actions that you can take during your turn. One is to play a favor card, which are these here that you gain through different things, and you can choose to play one. The other option that you can have is if you meet the criteria over here for the sponsorships, you can trigger that as well. Now, they either give you a benefit or victory points. It is your choice to choose which one you want if you meet those criteria. So then the player, that's the end of that person's turn. It keeps on going until someone hits 50 victory points, and that triggers the end of the game. Everyone takes the one last run except for the person who triggers. One step at the end of your turn you left out, which is that you have to make sure your hand size is underneath the limit. There is a hand size limit. Your hand size has to be less than 8 for standard cards and 3 for favor cards. Unless you have modifications. There's 2 modifications that increase those hand sizes. Correct. So just kind of keeping that in mind. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Keep on going till the end of the game. Things I liked. I agreed with you. I liked this, getting, when you score it, putting something down. I liked that, having basically board upgrades. I appreciated that one, museum upgrades, if you will. But I will say, I didn't really care for trading in the museum, those victory points. I wish these would have changed every round or something, because I felt like it did get stagnant. I mean, it started out okay, but then as you played it, everything kind of drifted into it, and then it became, I'm trading 2 victory points for 2 victory points. I mean, there's cases where you might really need a card, and then you're willing to pay that sacrifice of 3 victory points to take it. Or at least maybe like mid-round, maybe when someone hits 25 points, like flipping them or something, you know what I mean? Like changing it up somehow or some way, because that was not good. I really don't feel like that mechanism. Yeah, I think that one fell flat. I do think that, I like the discard, because normally when you play, you have the option to take from your hand or anyone else's discard pile. It's the same as museum.
But in Museum, the original, you played your discard into your opponent's hand or discard pile when you swapped out.
Because they basically made up cards.
Which could really hose somebody at the end of the game because you could put ones that were negative victory points into their discard pile.
Right.
So this one took that away, where you could only play into your own discard pile to take from other people. You lost a victory point, and they gained one as a perk.
Well, and I did feel like it was actually possible to fill the board.
And this one, yeah, that's the other. You could actually fill the board without ending the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the other one, you probably could too, but you'd have to do really low scoring cards,
which is not any fun. To be quite honest with you.
So there's aspects of this one I liked better, but there's a lot of it I didn't like as well. So I don't feel like it's as strong of an entry as far as strategy as what the original Museum was. It feels like this is more simplified, but I do like I love this chart that they added. I think that was a really nice add. And I like the fact that you get points for how many of those you trigger at the end as a bonus, too. And then what I didn't like, though, also, are the favor cards felt really swingy. You got some really powerful ones.
There was multiple in there, and you.
No, I understand that, but you got a bunch of them. It was like every time you got something that like.
Well, that's because
really
I got the 3
game.
favor cards, and I mean, and so I got more favor cards, so therefore they were more powerful. But the first 2 I got, I just used for the 2.
Yeah, there are some that were kind of weak where you would play them and just use for the secondary benefit of drawing 2 more cards because they weren't that great. I had one where it gave everybody a card at the table and, I got to keep the extra one. But it's like you get the last entry of the 4 cards. So it's like, why would I want to play that?
You get the first and last.
It's like, I could either play for that or I can play for 2 free cards. I can get 2 cards either way.
Well, I mean, I guess you get to choose the first one and then you get the last one. But my thing was okay, so one of them was draw one of these cards that were on the board and then take one of the art market. But I'm like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
I can get these anytime by trading. Why would I do that?
Right.
I just want that. So for me, that was...
However, there's other cards that let you play directly into your museum from somewhere, or the ones you got, or which you got to score one, which I thankfully got at the very end.
Right. So, I mean, come on. It was kind of even out.
I'm just saying there's some really swinging cards. I'm not saying it was overpowered for you. You just happened to get them first. But yeah, I just thought the card weighting was off. It felt like some of the favorite cards were really good. Some of them, you might as well just use them for the secondary benefit of getting the 2 cards.
Which in itself is pretty powerful.
Well, yeah.
But, so I mean, there's is to be said. So now the question is, which do you like better?
I have to go with the original Museum.
I agree.
I don't think this one is as strong of an entry. I mean, it's okay. It's not a bad game.
Yeah, no. I think this one's easier for people to understand. So depending on the player level that we're kind of introducing this, I could see why you would go this route. And like you said, there are 2 or 3 things that I really liked that they changed, but then the other things I didn't really care for.
Yeah.
So that was kind of...
Now, I'm hoping that the expansions add on some more strategy and
depth to it. It is possible that will help.
But the base game itself, if you compare this base game to Museum-based game, Museum wins. I mean, there's more to it than this one.
But that being said, it's still a good game.
Yeah.
What would you score it?
On Museum, I give it an 8.5. I think I'm going to give this one an 8. I think it's about a half point not as good.
I really liked the original.
Yeah, you gave it a 9.5 on the last one.
Yeah, because I absolutely loved it. This one, not so much. I'm with you on an 8 on it. It is a set collection that I can still get down with much better than some other set collections I've played, but there's something missing to this one that just makes it fall a little flat for me.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad compared to the other one. You dropped it a 1.5 compared to yours. I just dropped it a half point, but I do think that I think this was a nice add. I think that there was just little things they took away that take away some of the strategy and depth of the game. And that's why I think
for me it was this right here. This killed me for the game. Like I was excited about, I could play cards, get victory points that way. That was nice because you could probably do a strategy where you're just going to collect stuff and give stuff to the other factories. But the problem I had with it was it never changed. So they were stuck there. So I think if they would have done something better with this, and maybe the first person to gain their token would trigger a flip of those. Yeah. I think that would have been
the only thing is it would have made it more administrative nightmare because you would have to redistribute all the cards on each one of those.
There's a whole
time.
stack.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about okay, these paintings were in favor in this museum. Now I got to redistribute which ones are in favor.
But that'd been all right.
So it just means a lot more of a headache each time you do a round around the table.
No, I'm not talking every round. I'm talking about triggering at like certain victory point.
Yeah, I mean, you could potentially have it trigger, but it'd have to be a few and far between thing.
Well, I mean, you're trying to get for 50, so do it.
And you can race that track up pretty fast. I mean, as you did, you jumped up 20-something points in one turn, which is half your score.
For me, it'd be like the first person to hit the 10 marker, the first person to hit the second 10. Like, that, doing it at those levels. I think that would be fine. Or whatever the case may be, put little markers on there. That's why I dropped it so low, is this felt so stagnant and awful. I didn't like it as much. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast today, and hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later. Bye.